order of the Oregon Commission for Women on May 17th. And glad to see all of you. Thanks for all of you scurrying around behind the scenes trying to get the tech to work right for all of us. Wow, I'm hearing myself in echo. All right, we'll try that again. We'd like to quickly review the agenda. We have some approval of our last meeting's minutes and the agenda for today. Follow that with commissioner updates. We have a couple of reports. We have some old business, a little bit of old business, quite a bit of new business, a little bit of an executive director's report, an opportunity for public comment, and then we will hopefully be done in time to move into our special meeting this morning as well. So if I could ask, Ava, could you start with the roll call of the commission, please?
Yes, of course. Signify by saying yes, present, or aye. Co-chair Parent.
Aye.
Co-chair Mercier. Vice Chair Rico. Commissioner Hounsberger. Commissioner Seychell. Commissioner Chapman.
Aye.
Commissioner Lancaster.
Present.
Commissioner Ford. Commissioner Konev.
Here.
Representative Graber. Senator Patterson. Thank you.
And we do have a quorum, Ava. You're on mute.
I'm sorry, I have a lot of things coming back and forth. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I didn't see who just came into the meeting. Could somebody tell me who just came into the meeting?
It was Commissioner Rico.
It was Commissioner
Okay.
Rico.
We have 5 present. Is that?
Terrence, can you help us out here? We
Yeah.
have 6 present or we need 6?
1, 2, 4. There are 6 present.
Okay, so we're good, right?
Correct, you have
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. So next on the agenda is approval of this agenda on May 17th, as well as the minutes from the last meeting on January 19th. Those were sent out to you ahead of time. I would entertain a motion to approve both.
I move to approve both. I'll second.
So, motion made by Commissioner Lancaster, seconded by Commissioner Chapman. Do we have any further discussion? Okay, all in favor signify, how about if you raise your hand or unmute yourself and say aye?
Aye.
Aye.
And anyone opposed? Okay, motion passes. So we're going to move into our commissioner check-ins and updates. And again, this is just an opportunity for you to tell what's been going on kind of in your world, as well as the connection to the work at OCFW. So Commissioner Chapman, you're the lucky one that gets to start us off.
Yeah, thank you. I've been working with the governor and Senator Wyden's new Clean Tech Task Force. So I'll be joining this new effort similar to the CHIPS bill, making recommendations for the 2025 session to specifically focus on workforce or bringing more women and people of color into the clean tech workforce and thinking about the wraparound services, especially for women. So childcare, access to transportation, things that are prohibiting people from being able to re-enter the workforce post-pandemic. So any of our priorities that we are able to connect with that work, I think will be well received in 2025.
Excellent. And how big is that task force? Is that quite a few
40
people?
people, 40 people, about, I think 10% would be private industry, so not a lot of for-profit companies like mine, but a lot of representation through community organizations and public agencies.
Great. Outstanding. Thanks for representing, and we'll be pleased to hear the progress of the task force, and look forward to hearing a further report on that.
Absolutely.
All right. Let's see. Commissioner Ford is not here. Commissioner Hansberger.
Yay, thank you, Krista. Good morning, everyone. I will not turn on my camera simply because when you're not feeling well, you don't really look well. So I hope everyone is doing better on Friday morning. My update, work has been as busy as you can imagine, but in relations to our commission, I'm pleased to let you know, like a few years ago, when we had long legislative session, our commission endorsed a bill that mandated OLCC inspectors and staff to document and report labor trafficking occurring or suspect labor trafficking occurring on illicit marijuana grows, and well, both illicit and legal. And as a result of those connections, I'm very pleased to let you know that I'm currently working with both Medford and Bend advocacy groups in the arena of anti-human trafficking or labor trafficking to figure out a better local and state response to assist and serve vulnerable victims. And I'm hoping to get Saba's help to connect me with Lily Morgan. It is my understanding that she was our state rep from Jackson County or Josephine County, kind of always mix those two, but I was told that she's no longer in a legislative capacity, that she's a mayor of some town. So I'm hoping that Saba can help connect me with her so that we can continue this conversation, how to improve responses and close these massive gaps. Talking to these task forces and advocacy groups that are Spanish speaking and provide direct services to vulnerable demographic, the situation is actually much worse than we all thought. But because it's not in the forefront of local media or anyone's advocacy platform, remains very much marginalized, which allows and enables illicit actors and traffickers to continue exposing vulnerable, undocumented laborers to horrific and grotesque incidents of violence and abuse. So this is so much more than criminal justice issue. I'm hoping to approach it from a public health perspective foremost, hoping that would garner more interest and support from different stakeholders. So that is one thing, and I'm happy to let you know that on June 4th, I'll be presenting at the Veteran Affairs in Portland, the VA hospital. Sorry, I'm hearing some echoes. I'll be presenting on an all-day panel on identifying labor trafficking victims in a healthcare environment. And this is like, I've been waiting for probably 6 to 7 years to get that access and indoor pathway in healthcare world to, assist and mobilize and empower healthcare professionals who are most, if not better fitted to possibly identify and intersect labor trafficking victims. And so that's going to happen on June 4th, and it's going to be streamlined nationally to all VA hospitals. So really, really excited about that. And if anyone on the commission would like to get involved in some kind of more in-depth conversations and get ready for the next legislative session, would love to be part of that. But that's all I have, Chair Krista. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Hansberger. That sounds like exciting work and great job out there just representing as well. All right, we're going to move to Commissioner Konev.
Good afternoon. I don't know how I did this, but when I signed in, my camera wasn't working. I still can't get it to work. I might log out shortly and try again. Since we last met, I've had the opportunity to travel to Washington, D.C. to lobby for funding, general funding for college for across the nation, and particularly for our students here in Oregon. We lobbied for short-term Pell Grants so that 3-month certificates like welding or trucking would also have a Pell Grant attached or as an opportunity to pay for that schooling. We also lobbied for food stamps for students, which kind of surprised me as we were there, that that's not something that's already in the process, where students who are attending college are eligible for food stamps. It's a process for them to be able to do that. We met with local legislators, our state representatives, and it was a really good experience. Additionally, we took 2 young students from the college who were both identified as female. So it was a great way to highlight some of our youth and give them that experience. I'm also working on establishing a health board for the Eastern European community. This is work that I have done for several years now between Washington and Oregon. I'm currently, we have a website that is ready to launch to be able to share critical medical information through a more trusted portal. And I'm also running workshops for Eastern European community, including resume writing workshops and reaching the Eastern European community, including new arrivals from Ukraine. I am also sharing information about new laws as they come in for parolees and for folks who have been here for a while to share information how to reapply for their parole status. And some of this work that we have done in the last couple of years, particularly in the state of Washington, has garnered national attention and actually even international attention. Some of the leaders that have been on this work with me have had a presentation in Warsaw, Poland, and most of this is to best practices in how to establish trust in government and in medical systems. And I will stop there. Thank you. I'm here if you have any questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Commissioner Konev. You've been very, very busy and we appreciate your update. All right, we're going to go to Commissioner Lancaster next.
Thank you, Chair Parent. I'm going to go a bit non-traditional with my update. Nothing to report professionally. I just wanted to speak to my recent past and future availability and participation with the Commission. I've been dealing both with personal health issues and supporting a family member who's dealing with some health challenges as well. And both have impacted my ability to be fully present and engaged with the Commission. So I met with Saba relatively recently and just considered my options going forward. I'd considered stepping down. I didn't want to occupy the space, the seat that another woman could potentially occupy. But Saba is quite persuasive and super supportive, and I appreciate her support during this time, and is helping me explore options to continue to participate in the Commission to the best of my ability. And I think going forward, at a minimum, my plan is to continue to attend meetings to maintain a quorum, and as available, I'll work on the lobbying side of things and attend special events as well. But my focus right now is my health and the health of my family members. So I'm a bit limited in my ability to fully participate and engage with the group, but wanted to acknowledge that. amongst my fellow commissioners, and just publicly thank Saba for her support as well.
Thank you so much. We're sorry to hear that you're having those health challenges, and our thoughts are with you. And we're glad that Saba was persuasive and keeping you engaged. And let us know if we can help in any way. And we're glad you're here with us.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
All right. I don't think we have Commissioner Mercier yet. She's stuck in traffic. Let's go to Commissioner Rico Cornwell, please.
Thank you, Co-Chair Parent. Can you hear me?
We can hear you in duplicate.
Try it again.
Okay, but then if I talk, is that gonna echo?
It does.
Yeah. So we have to turn that sound. Hold, please.
Hybrid's always challenging.
It's the remix. Okay, if I talk now. I think we have to unplug. Yeah, I don't think we need the owl. Okay, testing.
Nope.
Okay.
Does somebody have their sound
Okay,
turned
I
on?
think that might work.
We're good.
Okay, great. Wow, okay. It's all right. We all have to, go through these processes as a team. It's okay. All right, so lots going on at the city. We just passed our budget, which is super exciting. There was a lot of really interesting dynamics during the budget process, but I'm really proud that we focused on climate resiliency, sustainability, safety, and working on my favorite project, which is the first small business office in the city of Portland. We just seated a couple of positions in there, so I'm really excited to see where that goes. And just start building in an infrastructure that's going to help our small businesses in Portland thrive. So I'm really excited about that. I had the honor of speaking at the Driving Diversity graduation, and it's a cohort of folks from underrepresented backgrounds in the trucking industry. And they worked 12 weeks really hard to get their CDLs, and this organization helps them find placement after they complete their work. So it was just really inspiring to see all these people that work really hard, seeing women who are in the trucking industry, and especially on the waste management side. The keynote speaker was a woman who explained that even now is just so challenging for people to see women driving garbage trucks, and they just were so inspiring, and it was really cool to see women in the trades, and I think that is something to be celebrated. So that was really awesome. Talking about trades, I attended Celebrate Trade last night with the Consular Corp, and that was really also exciting to see all the work that Oregon is doing at an international scale. Again, with our ethos of sustainability and focusing on industries that give back to the land, focus on partnerships with the Native community, and just really makes me proud that at a moment where we're just seeing so many different things in this country, that we're part of a state that holds the values true. And it felt really special to be surrounded by industry giants, a lot of really big corporations, really big folks that stay here and choose to grow their companies in Oregon because of our, our commitment to sustainability and to the, and to making sure that everybody here can thrive. I think that's significantly more important to me in the light of recent news about a speech that was made at a commencement graduation by an NFL kicker from the Chiefs. And to me, it was just so striking to feel so privileged to be in a state where nothing like that could ever fly, right? Telling young women who are about to graduate from college, who are working really, really hard, that what they need to look forward to is to be homemakers, and that they have been told lies that that is not the goal they should have. And that men like that have been given the platform to speak in such ways. So just in these last few weeks and months, I've just felt very privileged that I get to be in a state where, as a queer woman of color, I feel safe. And I don't think that a lot of people in this country are going to have the privilege to do that, or have that privilege to do that. So I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge that it's an interesting time for our country, and especially as women. I think we're hearing so many things that just take us backwards so much. So I just feel thankful to be in this sisterhood with you all, and with the team. So that's my update.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Rico. I'm glad you mentioned the Chiefs kicker, because that was quite appalling. And, I hope they have an appropriate reaction for what he said and continued to say, for sure. All right, let's see. I'm going back through my list. We still don't, let's see, Commissioner Ford's not here. Did Camille make it yet? I don't see her, I don't think. Okay, I'll just share a few things kind of from my world of education. You're probably beginning to read about all the challenging budget situations in education in Oregon. The Portland teacher strike kind of was the start of that. We did avert a strike in Salem. We have a couple of other districts that think they might be headed there. And it's just a really challenging budget season for K-12 school districts, for a variety of factors, which I don't need to go into right now. I think the biggest takeaway, or the biggest sharing for this group, are the number of layoffs happening in districts across this state. Most school districts are the largest employer in their communities. We have 197 school districts in this state, and 2/3 of them, the districts are the largest employer. So, you're hearing about the bigger districts. Salem Kaiser School District is in the process of laying off over 300 employees. Portland's in a similar situation, but you can go to all 197 districts and hear very similar stories. The one thing that I would say is that, we do not pay teachers well. That's a fact. And, teachers are asking to be paid more like what they deserve. And, I think that's a fair ask. But when the, budget pie is a certain set limit, it's hard to make choices within that. And so it's just kind of a challenging time right now. We are in really good conversation with the governor's office. We have a series of meetings next week with her top education policy advisors to talk about these challenges and what we might do to resolve some of them. She is great about leaning on our women's superintendent network. Some of you know this because I've spoke about it several times, but we have a very low number of women's superintendents. And so out of the 197 districts, we have less than a fourth are women, which is even more ironic when you look at the entire K-12 workforce. Most teachers are women. Almost 70% of teachers in the state are women. And so it's really disproportionate when you get to that top leadership level. But the group of women that do serve in that role have a really good reputation with the governor's office. Her team and her speak with this group quite regularly to run different education policy ideas through that network. And so we're going to continue to have those conversations, but just a lot of challenge and turnover right now. The pandemic is, over, but the lingering effects of the pandemic are alive and well and strong in our schools. The way kids and frankly staff have showed back up after the pandemic just requires a lot more supports than what we were typically needing to provide in schools. What schools are funded to do and what schools are expected to do. There's kind of a disconnect there. And, it's no longer, we're funded to teach kids to, read and write and, think critically and things like that. And we are now, expected to feed kids breakfast and lunch, provide after school care, provide extended learning care, provide summer kinds of learning, fill the gaps of the learning loss that occurred during the pandemic. And so that's just a major impact on the system overall. And so, we're working our way through it, but there's just a lot to kind of uncover and figure out. We don't necessarily want to go back to all of our ways before the pandemic because we learned some really good things that we want to carry forward, but just how do we meet the needs of kids that have major gaps in learning and have major mental and behavioral health support needs. And it's taxing on the system right now. So I'll stop there and just see any other commissioner comments in the commissioner check-in and update section. Okay. We're going to go ahead and move on in the agenda, and I'm going to kick it back to our Vice Chair, Rico. She has a subcommittee report on Domestic Violence Awareness Month.
Thank you, Co-Chair Parent. I can actually do items 5 and 6 together because they're kind of the same update. So we met on March 21st with the unofficial Domestic Violence Prevention Subcommittee. Several different members who are interested in doing this work from other commissions met, and we heard from Unite Us, who shared a demo of the Connect Oregon's Community Information Exchange. We had a great feedback. We had great feedback and information. We have been meeting with them to try to understand how we could potentially support a legislative concept or the work that they're doing in connecting CCO, so community care organizations, with domestic violence providers through that Connect Us, the Connect Oregon exchange, which would be game changing for a lot of these nonprofit organizations. As you know, we have explained in the past, we really want to shift the dynamic in Oregon to think of domestic violence as a public health issue because it is a social determinant of health. And as I've explained before, a lot of times people who are subject to domestic abuse are unable to seek help from many different sources, but one place that is consistently available is a doctor's office. And so being able to create a safe, private, and intentional exchange for doctors to be able to connect them with domestic violence providers is going to be really just, I think, a game-changing movement for us and a leading movement in the country. So if this is something that we can help steward, it's been really great to see how much there is partnership from, all of the commissions, but also from the coordinated care organizations. So the CCOs, the big, insurance companies who are willing to be part of this exchange, and working with the Oregon Health Authority to see how Medicare dollars can also support this endeavor. There is one organization that's already kind of going through it, and we've been doing a lot of learning from them as well. So it's really exciting. I really hope that we can keep going with that platform, and support that happening all across Oregon. The next meeting we're going to have is on Thursday, the 23rd, and we will continue talking about this. But because there is interest from members of all of the commissions to establish the Domestic Violence Prevention Joint Subcommittee, it would have to actually be an official vote from each of the commissions to approve it. I know that there was a meeting of the leadership, the different commission leadership, that I was unable to attend. So I'm hoping maybe co-chair Parent or Terrence, if you all could share a little bit about where we're at with that conversation. But we're hoping to form an official joint subcommittee and continue to steward that, that process along.
Thank you so much. Director Saunders, do you want to comment on that?
Absolutely. So can you hear me first? Okay, perfect. So there was a discussion in the leadership meeting for all of the Oregon Advocacy Commissions. It was not a formal part of the meeting and in-depth conversation, as there was no representation from OCFW. So hopefully in the next meeting, in June, we would be able to have a more robust discussion of adopting that for all 4 commissions and putting some energy around that initiative.
So it's not appropriate then for this commission to take that on today? We should wait until after that multi-commission discussion, or?
No, absolutely take it on today, and it would be great to have a formal vote on DV as being one of the priority areas. The other commissions have started to adopt DV as one of the priority areas, but there really needs to be a driver, and I believe OCFW is going to be that driver under Commissioner Rico. So just noting that, and we're going to have a discussion later today around priorities, and I can talk a little bit more about the importance of the priorities of having formally voted on commission initiatives to really have that governor buy-in. Andre is also here from the governor's office to elevate that message up to the governor to make some of these changes happen.
All right, so should our motion then be about supporting the DV joint subcommittee across the commissions, and that we support that? Is that what we're looking for? Okay, so I would entertain that motion if anybody is.
Dr. Myers has a quick comment.
Oh, we can't hear her.
Second. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
No, I can hear myself. Wait, thanks. Okay, I just have a really quick comment about that. I would suggest, because if domestic violence prevention is going to be a priority for OCFW, it could make more sense for it to just be voted on as a commission priority, and also if there is other joint commission buy-in for it to be a joint subcommittee, because I would just hate for the vote to only be about participating in a joint subcommittee if it really, this work is important and should be moving on. And so that would just be my suggestion of voting on this as an OCFW priority, whether or not a joint commission, a joint subcommittee happens. Terrence, Angela, Vice Chair Rico, does that resonate of what the motion should be?
Absolutely, it should be a vote for both.
Whoops, Kyle, you're muted again.
I think she's talking to Commissioner Rico. They're both in the same room. I had to step out into my own office. So I don't hear that go.
So maybe what we should do is then wait until we get to new business when we talk about the strategic priorities discussion then, and do it then.
Correct, that's going to be better.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. again, thank you, Commissioner Rico. That's awesome. Okay, then we are going to move on to new business, and we're going to start with Dr. Myers on a report on environmental scan presentation.
Okay, thanks everyone. Can I have your computer, Micah? I'll drive it so you don't have to. Kyle Myers is not a hybrid pro. We're gonna get the, no, I'm gonna use Micah's computer for slides. Yeah, if you share your screen with those slides, that'd be great. And then I can just click it forward so you don't have to do that. But if it's in, you can go to slideshow up at the top right. Yeah, perfect. And then,
Can someone unmute their speaker so that I can?
yeah. Okay. Great. Thank you. Okay. So you can all see the slides, right? And everyone can hear me, but Angela won't be able to hear if other people speak. We're gonna figure this out. Okay. Okay. Let's see here. Thanks for your patience, everybody. So this is all very good timing for everything. So good morning, everyone. For those of you who might not know me, I'm Dr. Kyle Myers. I'm the policy analyst for the Oregon Advocacy Commission's office, and really here to support OCFW and the other commissions with any policy advocacy you want to do. So over the past few months, I worked with a student intern, Brianne Moore, and we conducted an environmental scan of Oregon state agencies and potential opportunities for the Oregon Commission for Women. So today I'm going to just share some preliminary findings for you that will hopefully help inform your discussion that you're going to have right after this about commission priorities and future directions. And I'm going to expand a bit on the state level need for domestic violence prevention coordination. So this presentation is going to be pretty brief, but I'm going to cover why this environmental scan is important for OCFW, the commission's 7 strategic priority areas, and how the state agencies, boards, and commissions relate to them. I'm going to share a few examples of agency programs and reports and state level data that are relevant to OCFW. And then you'll have time to discuss the findings and how you want to proceed with collaborating across the state enterprise. And I just want to mention this isn't exhaustive. You definitely don't have to do, any direction that I am sharing. There may be other things that you want me to explore. So it's more things that I've pulled that I think are very relevant, but also I'm happy to go dive in deeper to other things that you might want me to. So we gathered and summarized information about the Oregon State Government Enterprise, so you are aware of the agencies, boards, and commissions in the state. And we did this because OCFW has a statutory mandate related to state agencies. So I do not expect you to be able to read this. This is a snapshot of OCFW's statutes. So this is the law in the Oregon Revised Statutes, everything relating to OCFW's mandates, laws, rules, expectations, and that have been established for you to accomplish. For this conversation, I'm going to specifically focus on a few duties of the commission that are required under Oregon Revised Statute 185.540, which are these. So OCFW is required to analyze the status of women and men under the laws of Oregon relating to civil rights, contracts, income, property, and the family in order to assure full equity and treatment under the law. Another component is monitoring the implementation of laws affecting the legal rights of women and working for equity of opportunity and treatment for women in employment through an analysis of the employment policies and practices of employers, both public and private, and assisting the governor on the governor's equity-focused initiatives with policy advice, the study of longstanding community issues, the provision of community input, a community voice and leadership as requested, and identifying and addressing issues which may be unique to special categories of women. And I will put the caveat that we're kind of in the process of standardizing statutes across all of the commissions, but the intention of all of this is still going to hold. So essentially, OCFW has legal power to influence state level change for women in Oregon. And one of the most effective ways of doing that is going to be through collaboration with agencies and programs across the state enterprise. The Oregon Blue Book website has a list of all state agencies, boards, and commissions. So I encourage you to spend some time exploring this site to learn more about all of the government organizations and programs. So you'll see that there are over 80 state agencies, and within agencies, there are divisions and offices which operate hundreds of different programs for Oregonians. And then these are the 7 strategic priority areas that guide much of the Oregon Advocacy Commission's work. They're civic engagement, health and well-being, housing and families, education, environmental justice, justice, safety and policing, and jobs in the economy. So as a commission, you cannot be able to, focus on all 7 of these priorities. What we're hoping you will do is focus in on 2 to 3 of these areas in your work over the next year or 2. And so we're using these 7 priority areas as containers to categorize the state agencies that you may want to collaborate with as you narrow in on your commission focus and activities. So these are many of the agencies and offices related to civic engagement. Y'all are in there. Here is a list of health-related agencies, boards, and commissions, and I'm going to share an example from Oregon Health Authority's Maternal and Child Health Program. So OHA has a committee, the Maternal Mortality and Morbidity Review Committee, which was established at OHA by the legislature just in 2018. And in January 2023, the committee released their biennial report with the following 5 recommendations related to preventing pregnancy-related deaths and complications. So just, this is an example of, the kinds of committees or commissions or boards that are out there that are very relevant to OCFW's, priority populations. And that this, these kinds of things are someone that you might want to invite folks to present at your meeting, or you might want to attend one of their meetings just to be able to see if there's any kind of cross-pollination and collaboration that you all want to work on. These are the agencies associated with housing and family-related services. I'm going to share a quick overview of the programs that are run by the Department of Human Services, because I think this is also going to relate to the DV priorities. So DHS, Department of Human Services, has subdivisions, including the Aging and People with Disabilities, the Child Welfare Program, the Developmental Disabilities Program, Self-Sufficiency Programs, Vocational Rehab, and the Governor's Advocacy Office. So DHS administers programs that provide food, cash, and medical benefits, support for children, youth, and families, disability services, and crisis and safety resources. So very much so for DVSA survivors. So DHS manages many programs that significantly affect women and families, and it is an agency that would be worth exploring potential opportunities for OCFW and relationship building there. These are Oregon's education-related agencies, boards, and commissions, and I'm going to share some data related to childcare deserts and expenses. I know childcare topics have come up, for the commission. So a childcare desert is defined as a community with more than 3 children for every 1 regulated childcare slot, and families with infants and toddlers in 35 of 36 Oregon counties live in a childcare desert. We have a severe childcare crisis in Oregon. The Department of Early Learning and Care administers the employment-related daycare program, which subsidizes childcare costs for people with incomes at or below 200% federal poverty level. When they first apply, they're able to earn more money and still stay in the program as they are in it. But these are the maximum rates that can be charged for childcare for families in the program. Currently, the ERDC program has a wait list due to high demand and limited funding. And so without this subsidy, childcare rates can be too high for families to afford. So OCFW may want to learn more about ERDC and explore childcare access and affordability as a potential priority. These are the environmental justice related agencies, boards, and commissions you may want to learn more about collaborating with. And then these are the agencies related to justice, safety, and policing. And I want to put a spotlight on 2 advisory reports that the Secretary of State's Audits Division released just last year. In March of 2023, the Oregon Audits Division released an advisory report about equal pay titled "Oregon Must Do More to Close Persistent Wage Gaps for Women and People of Color in State Government." And in October 2023, the Audits Division released an advisory report about interpersonal violence titled Breaking the Cycle. A comprehensive statewide strategy would benefit domestic violence victims, survivors, and advocates. So I'm going to just share a few key findings and suggestions from these two reports because I want to just amplify the reality that OCFW doesn't need to be conducting big studies and doing research. And there are already the suggestions, like living within community and the enterprise. It's just a matter of what priorities OCFW wants to amplify and maybe help convene to be able to move the dial on. So on this first one with the Equal Pay Advisory Report, even after 2 rounds of pay equity adjustments in 2019 and 2022, wage gaps for women and people of color remain and are largest for women of color. So these pay equity adjustments may not be appropriately accounting for structural issues that contribute to wage gaps, such as discrimination and lack of access to opportunities or unpaid labor due to child rearing. So the Audits Division highlighted 2 suggested actions that OCFW may want to explore. That the Oregon legislature should study the implementation of the pay equity bill and consider if legislative action is needed to address these persistent wage gaps. And 2, that DAS, the Department of Administrative Services, should review their existing processes to determine the causes of systemic wage gaps in state government. So a pay equity adjustment is currently happening in the state, and OCFW may want to get involved in learning more about it and monitoring the outcomes for women. So we can help, we can help DAS and OCFW talk about this. And then the advisory report about domestic violence found that victims and survivors face multiple barriers to accessing community services and navigating the justice system. Oregon advocates are reporting fragmented and under-resourced social services, and complex criminal and civil justice systems are contributing to access issues. And 3, which I think is really critical for OCFW involvement, is that Oregon lacks a centralized statewide response to domestic violence and does not strategically address risks through statewide data-informed prevention, mitigation, or intervention-related action. So the suggested actions from the Audits Division are that people need to develop and implement a statewide strategy to address the needs of DV victims and survivors. The second is centralizing resources and statewide information sharing, including improved data collection. The third is adding financial stability to nonprofit organizations. So there's already some momentum around a joint Oregon Advocacy Commission subcommittee on domestic violence prevention. So there could be power, right, in numbers here. And each commission is going to be voting on whether this is something they approve of and want to be officially involved in. Like Vice Chair Rico said, the next meeting is on Thursday, May 23rd. But this is exactly the kind of thing that OCFW was established to be able to do, right? To be able to kind of look across the state enterprise, help de-silo the work, ask questions, learn more about programs, hold programs accountable, of being able to kind of work on maybe the centralizing resources and working on this. It's not that OCFW would need to handle the entire load of this. There are, of course, agencies across the enterprise, but there may need to be a convener who is asking these questions. I think that is a very, very relevant priority for OCFW. So lastly, these are the agencies, boards, and commissions related to jobs and the economy that you may want to learn more about. And so these are just a few examples, of the types of partnerships OCFW can have with agencies and programs across the state government enterprise, along with the entire OACO staff. I'm here to support you to narrow in on the topical areas you want to prioritize and get you connected with the state agencies involved in that work. So you can collaborate on monitoring and improving programs that are affecting women across the state. So that is just kind of the context I wanted to share with you, and I want to turn it over to you all now to ask any questions that you might have and help inform the discussion about potential next steps. All right.
Thank you so much,
Thanks.
Dr. Myers. That was excellent. Very,
and I'll
very
put
helpful.
everything in the chat, and we can email and follow this up, for you, but these are just Google Slides, so I'll make sure you have them in the chat if you want to keep looking at them after I stop sharing.
Thank you so much. This is perfect for discussing our strategic priorities. I just wanted to make a comment that OCFW led the research and commissioned the women's superintendent study a couple of years ago. And one of the things that came out of that study, and it wasn't actually what we had intended to look at, but that there was a significant pay inequity for women superintendents versus men superintendents. And it was on average about $35,000 less per year for a woman superintendent. And that didn't even account for the experience level of the superintendent. So you were comparing many men superintendents that had, 1, 2, 3 years of experience versus women that had 19, 20 years of experience. And the inequity was about $35,000 a year. So if you had, controlled for their experience level, I think it would have been far greater. And we started down that path as a commission and looking at that. And what happened in that was that the way that the statute is written, there's not a comparison for a superintendent because it says within the same organization. And when you're a superintendent, you're the only one in your quote organization by the way they define it. So we kind of stopped. We just kind of like, we didn't really know where to go next. But we were saying, why can't the organization be the state system as a whole so that you're comparing superintendents to superintendents? But at that time, there wasn't a clear path. So I guess I'm just throwing in my kind of vote for one of our priorities to be in looking at the implementation of the Pay Equity Act, because we're still not where we need to be. And so I'll just lead off the discussion by sharing that. Thank you.
I second that motion. I think it's critical.
Other commissioners, comments, thoughts, questions? Trying to give appropriate
say-
wait time. Go ahead, Commissioner Hansberg.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Parent. I'm very supportive of that and thankful to Noriko for her persistency and commitment to this cause despite her busy schedule and many other challenges. So I will do all I can to support this work because it's critical and intersects many other areas related to intimate partner violence, because it's not all in silos. So I think this needs to be unpacked on a state level, and hopefully we can be that trailblazer in our state. So thank you.
So let's just keep the conversation going in terms of strategic priorities. So we've heard, implementation of the Pay Equity Act, our work around domestic violence, and having that be a cross-commission subcommittee effort. What other thoughts and ideas do you have about strategic priorities? I mean, I'll say that I absolutely understand the challenges related to appropriate childcare for women, and that is a huge barrier for many in terms of their work life and their career path. So I know we don't want to get too many priorities. We want to, have a few and stay really focused, but I would throw that out there for consideration as well. I'm not sure what kind of advocacy we do in that area, but that definitely is a barrier for women.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, how do we figure out how we strategize the priorities, because there's only limited time. But I think the two that were brought up, the pay equity and childcare, because not only is someone who's limited with their childcare options not able to make their lives better now, they're also not able to save money and invest. And so that the lack of that support now also causes homelessness in older age as well. So it's like a continuum. It's a lifetime sort of, I don't even know what to call it. Like a a person without childcare kind of gets stuck in a different pathway through their entire life because they're not able to advance in young age to be able to have the capacity to save and invest and retire well.
Yeah, it just kind of compounds throughout their lifetime for sure.
Yeah, but I don't know how we prioritize.
And one of the things, I mean, and Director Saunders tell us if this is appropriate or not, but just knowing those 3 priority areas, is that somewhere that the OAC staff can come back with some suggested ideas on either policy initiatives or action steps that this commission could take to support that effort?
Absolutely. I think we can also play an instrumental role when it comes to inviting state agencies to future meetings, community-based organizations that may be drafting legislative concepts to influence the 2025 legislative session in particular. And then also Andre is on, which is our policy advisor directly to the governor to elevate these issues again, to see if there's also synergy around some of the areas and connecting with other policy advisors, namely the one for education around the childcare affordability piece, and see if there's any energy outside of the state agencies that we can leech onto. So I see Andre coming on camera. So glad to wake the beast.
No, that's totally right. And it sounds like you all may be meeting with Pooja soon around some of those educational priorities. I'm definitely happy to make additional connections on things that rise to the top for you. So that's absolutely right. Thanks, Terrence.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we do meet with both Pooja and Rachel next week with about 25 superintendents to talk about some of the education related issues, but yeah. So are we, oh wait, I see some hands up. I
Yep.
think.
Commissioner Rico, and then I'll go after.
Okay, great.
Thank you. Yeah, so on that line, co-chair Parent, we wanted to have a meeting either with the governor or governor's staff to talk about these priorities. I think we said that at our last retreat, and I still have not seen a meeting in the books. So I just wanted to see where we're at with scheduling that. And then also the advisory report from the Secretary of State's office did make the recommendation to have a convener. And I think that convener should be the governor's office, and we should be supporting that convening because as the top executive, the people who would be putting together sort of that holistic strategic vision for the continuum of domestic violence prevention services is the top executive, right? And I still have not heard about yes, I'll touch on that, Director Saunders. So I think there is part of that advisory report was the impetus behind it was our ask of the Secretary of State's office to look at the continuum of domestic violence prevention work because we were seeing a huge fragmentation. And of course, it was proven true by the advisory report. And one of the main issues is because there is not one leading body that is convening and organizing that spectrum, right? And our hope had been that the governor's office would have sort of led the space as the top executive to organize the different state agencies that have involvement or pay or contribute to the continuum of providers. So we also have OCFW, the Oregon Coalition Against Domestic and Sexual Violence, who is sort of a convener of all the nonprofits, right? They have a membership-based organization, and they're the part of the continuum that's mostly for the providers. But I think convening those two bodies, right, the executive branch and the organizations is going to be key to get the conversation started on how the continuum is going to happen. So a while back when the advisory report came out, we had requested a meeting and I sent an email to then Director Lee to get us scheduled for a meeting with the governor. And also at our retreat, we had requested that because we were sort of feeling like, okay, we can have our commission's priorities, but we really need the governor's support as her advisory body, right? We are an advisory body to the governor, to have that synergy between our commission's priorities and, our key elected support in lifting up what we want to do. So we really had hoped to have that conversation so that we could, start talking about our priorities. But I think, and my ask is, whether or not the governor is already convening a body to look at the advisory report and how can we play a role into that. And then once we do have the joint subcommittee, like Dr. Meyer said, we'll have, power in numbers. So I think that'll be a very powerful advisory committee that can help with that work.
Thank you. Go ahead, Director Saunders.
Absolutely. I'm actually gonna see if Andre wants to say anything in that regard around the governor piece. I also have something similar that I want to mention as well, so I'll go right after.
Yeah, I am happy to bring this to the governor. I'm about 10 weeks in myself, so still getting caught up on all the asks. So thank you for raising this, and this is absolutely something that I will have on my agenda as I check in with the governor early next week, and I'll be happy to report back to you all on next steps for trying to get a meeting set.
Thank you, Andre. And if you need anything additional from us, just let us know.
Absolutely.
All right, Director Saunders, back to you.
Absolutely. So just want to respond to Commissioner Rico. So I think another step outside of working with the governor is to also work with the legislators that are on the Commission for Women. That may be something that is introduced in the 25 session as a bill that comes through to convene that task force. So that may be another path outside of working with the governor. Just want to double down on that. And we do have Ledge Days coming up on May 30th. So that would be a great opportunity to prioritize conversations with certain legislators and to get that on their radar as well, especially when these are formally adopted commission priorities.
I like that suggestion too. Maybe we need to try to pull a meeting together with Representative Graber and Senator Patterson and get them up to speed on these priorities and the connections we're trying to make. Commissioner Konev, go ahead. I see your hand up there.
So I just wondered, I used to work in the domestic violence world and I'm still connected to a couple of organizations, but I'm wondering with the OCFW that Commissioner Rico talked about, is it funding or is it more that we need to work on the legislative priority to make sure that funding is prioritized? I'm just kind of trying to figure out what we can do.
I think from my perspective, if I may, is just ensuring that the advisory report stated that there should be a structure redevelopment when it comes to the spectrum of DV work. And I think it is key that if we're going to start looking at restructuring or seeing how there is going to be a centralized DV sort of organization or agency, that I think we need to have a CADSB at the table as the same as the agencies. So I think if we're going to ask for sort of a support, from the governor to create a body that looks at that advisory report, that it necessarily has to have the providers the same as the agencies.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
All right, thank you. Great discussion. So Director Saunders, would it be appropriate then for us to make a motion and adopt those 3 priorities moving forward, and then asking for our July meeting to come back with some very specific ideas about our work in each of those areas? Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. So I'd entertain a motion to adopt the 3 priorities that Kyle identified there in the chat.
I second.
Okay. So did we, so Irene, could you be the person that makes the motion?
Okay, I make the motion to adopt the 3 priorities we just discussed.
Okay, and then do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Commissioner Chapman seconded in the motion. Do we have any further discussion? All right, so all those in favor signify by saying aye or raise your hand so we can see it on the screen.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, and any opposed? All right, so motion passes. Thank you very much. I see Commissioner Mercier there, and welcome. Glad you made it. Right. So we're going to move along in our new business to item C, which are the bylaws review and vote. And Saba, are you going to lead us off on that?
Can you all hear me okay?
Yes, perfect.
Excellent. And see me okay?
Yes.
Great. Excellent. Thank you, co-chair parent. So one of the things that we kind of happened to discover was that about June of 2022, I believe it was, there were amendments made to the bylaws to go from one chair and one vice chair to the structure that we have now, which is one senior chair, one junior chair, and then a vice chair. Unfortunately, there was no vote to make that happen and adopt it in our bylaws. And so I would like to formally present that to you all to vote here and adopt the structure that we've been using for nearly 2 years now.
Thank you, Saba, for
And I will give space
clarifying.
for Director Saunders to add anything to that, as I know some bylaw update changes conversations are also happening.
Absolutely. I don't have anything to add at this moment in time. I believe the next steps for the bylaw change is just to take a vote on behalf of the commission. We would need to work with our legislative council to get that formally adopted and posted on the website. Bylaws, I'm also going to mention, it would be great to, if there's any other areas that need to be revised, changed, now is the absolute time to do that. So it may be good to take a look after this meeting at all of the bylaws, see if it still makes sense, if there's any additional changes, and that can be done via email vote or the next public meeting. So that's the only thing that I would add in that regard.
Well, thank you, and thank you for this housekeeping item. And just to give a little more detail in terms of the history of this conversation, like Saba said, this was over a couple of years ago. We decided to go with a different leadership structure to have a more collaborative, distributed leadership model where we have co-chairs. And like Saba described, there's a senior and a junior. So the senior co-chair takes the full lead, and then the junior co-chair is kind of the chair in waiting or in kind of the learning phase, followed by the vice chair. And then the structure has it that the vice chair moves into that junior co-chair role, and the junior co-chair moves into the senior co-chair role. And it's worked fairly well for us so far, and I think we're interested in continuing with that structure, but I guess we missed a step, and that was to make a formal motion and take a vote about that so that our bylaws can reflect that. So I would entertain a motion to do that.
So moved.
Okay, thank you,
second.
Commissioner Rico. And I'm sorry, where did the second come from?
I can second.
Okay, and we have a second by Co-Chair Mercier. So do we have any further discussion on that motion? All right, then let's take a vote. All those in favor signify by aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, and any in opposition? All right, motion carries. Commissioner Hansberger, is your hand up because you want to make a comment, or was that just your vote?
It was both to vote and motion by hand.
Okay, did you want to make any further comment?
No.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. All right, the next item up for business is the vice chair election. And who's leading this discussion? Commissioner Rico, was there something you wanted to share?
I think we're missing Libra today.
Right, right. So what do we want to do here? Do we need to wait until she's present for this conversation, or do we want to share some of that previous conversation we've had?
I would say we postpone.
Okay. All right, until she's present. So
Apologies, I
typic-
think that was mine.
Oh,
Am I echoing?
were you gonna say something, Saba?
The vote for vice chair, I apologize if I misunderstood or misheard. Are we discussing the vice chair elections or the conversation around strategic priorities that Commissioner Ford was a part of?
No, this is the
Vice
vice
chair.
chair election. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. Vice chair elections do need to happen in this meeting as co-chair Parent will be cycling off at the end of June. Co-chair Mercier will be taking over as the senior chair, and as is now formally adopted by our bylaws, Vice Chair Rico will now be up to that junior co-chair slot. So we will need an election for vice chair. So now would be the time to nominate either yourself or someone else. I want to note that there are a number of folks who are not here today. Since the legislators, you can nominate anyone. You do need to formally accept or decline your nomination, and then we will take a vote on the record.
So Commissioner Rico, does that change anything about some of the conversations we've previously had?
Well, I mean, I can just share with the commission. I have been very impressed with Commissioner Ford's leadership. I have been just so inspired by her willingness to engage with high-level stakeholders in such a in just such a strong way. And I just think that Commissioner Ford has just a really powerful network of folks that she can call on to make the priorities of our commission be visible. And what I had discussed with co-chair Parent and Mercier is that I would actually, and this kind of goes back to our conversation about the bylaws, I would actually nominate Commissioner Ford to be the junior co-chair, understanding that that would maybe not be in alignment with the bylaws. But I just think that she is just such a strong member of the commission that has already such a breadth of work that she does in relation to women's issues. But she's not here, so that was the issue. But I don't know if any of the other commissioners have anything to say about my suggestion of nominating Commissioner Ford to be the junior co-chair, and I would remain the vice chair.
So I guess, Director Saunders, can that happen? Or do we need to elect Commissioner Ford as the vice chair and then have this other discussion about flip-flopping their roles for next year?
That is a great question. I don't know if I have an absolute answer at this moment in time. I will say the DOJ piece still needs to happen before the bylaws are formally adopted. So just one correction there. So I believe you can do that right now. And it would be great to make a motion. Of course, Commissioner Ford would need to accept the nomination. And we can do a unanimous email vote outside of this meeting. That may be another alternative. But I don't currently see anything stopping you from doing that.
Okay, so should the motion be to nominate her for the vice chair, or should it also include then flip-flopping her and Commissioner Rico?
So my belief would be to nominate as co-chair, based off of the previous conversation.
Okay.
I
Right,
make the motion to nominate Commissioner Ford to be a co-chair.
I'll
right.
second.
I couldn't see where that came from. Oh, okay,
I seconded it.
okay, thank you. Is there any further discussion?
Just one other item to note. So we will be sending out a poll or an email, likely on Monday. So just make sure that everybody's responsive, as we do require everybody to respond, including the two legislators. And we'll report back once we have a full unanimous decision. Saba, I
Right.
see your hand up as well.
Yep, go ahead, Saba.
Thank you. Now that we do have a junior co-chair, we will also need to renominate Vice Chair Rico for the vice chair position.
Okay.
You are also
Do-
welcome to nominate yourself.
Do we hear a motion to renominate Commissioner Rico for the vice chair position?
I'll move to nominate Commissioner Rico for the vice chair position.
Thank you. And do we have a second? I'll second that motion. Commissioner Parent. Do we have any further discussion? All right, so all in favor signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
All right, any opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you. And again, like Director Saunders said, watch for that email because we all need to respond to that to finalize this process. Saba, do you have your hand up?
I do. Commissioner Rico needs to formally accept, and then there will need to be a vote. You can either do that via email for the vote or now, as there is quorum and she is here.
I would prefer to do that now. So Commissioner Rico, are you accepting that nomination?
I do.
Okay, so let's re-vote again then to approve that after she's accepted the nomination. So all those in favor signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Thank you. And any in opposition? All right, thank you. Got one step of business done. Excellent. Thanks for your leadership. All right, we're going to turn it over, I think, to probably Commissioner Mercier to give us an overview of what's to happen here next.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you. My apologies for being late this morning. Let me see. This afternoon, or I guess later this morning, we are going to be hosting the Missing and Murdered Indigenous People panel here from 11 to 1. And really the objective is that the MMIP is a human rights crisis, violence against Indigenous people. Community and tribal advocates describe the crisis as a legacy of generations of government policies of forced removal, land seizures, and violence inflicted on Native peoples. I think this is a really important discussion because while I don't know that Oregon's the number one, thankfully, state with MMIP individuals, it certainly does affect pretty much all 9 Oregon tribes in Oregon, but also nationwide. And I think that today we'll see a lot of the challenges, or we'll hear about a lot of the challenges related to missing and murdered Indigenous people, both on reservation and off reservations. And some of the challenges that I've seen with on reservation considerations for MMIP is jurisdictional laws. Reservations are a sovereign nation that don't necessarily they don't have jurisdiction by local authorities, including police departments. And oftentimes the resources that tribes do have on reservations is very minimal for their own police enforcement. So even the tribes that do have their own police officers, oftentimes the missing and murdered aren't on reservations. So there's jurisdictional issues as well as reporting issues with, gosh, I want to say it was probably about 3 months ago, I looked at some of the reporting numbers of individuals who've gone missing, but then when I looked them up about missing, they were reported as Caucasian or Latino or not even as Indigenous individuals. So it's hard to say if these numbers are accurate, and the vulnerabilities associated with it. So I really appreciate everybody who's taken the time to be on the panel today to attend, but especially Saba, who's really worked behind the scenes in getting things organized and getting our Lunch and Learn panel up and running. Are there any questions about today?
All right. Well, thank you so much. And thanks for all your work on this. It's a very important topic. And I'm really sorry that I won't be able to be there, but I'm sure it's going to go really well. So thanks for your work on this.
That's all I
All right.
had.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, Director Saunders, we're going to turn it to you for your Executive Director report.
Absolutely. Thank you, Co-Chair Parent. So hopefully everybody can see my screen. I am also writing or doing these interim executive director reports in writing as well. So that should be with the meeting materials. But I'll read through them and answer any questions that may come up. So OCFW's 23-25 biennial budget currently has $5,371.07 left in general fund. And that can be used for commissioner reimbursements, compensation, travel, mileage, so on and so forth. And that needs to be used by June 30th, 2025, when the biennium closes. There's also $4,200 or so in the commission other funds account, and that can be used in the next biennium if needed. And that is generally used for commission events, food, and materials as needed. Also wanting to give a shout out to Commissioner Ford's foundation, Women Foundation of Oregon, which is sponsoring the Missing, Murdered, and Indigenous Peoples lunch panel, which is covering catering for about 80 folks for about $2,000. And also just wanting to double down, if there's any reimbursement requests, please send that to Ava as well as myself. And I do hear an echo, so I'm not sure if in the other room if somebody needs to be muted. But I will continue on. So internal staff updates or internal work updates. I've submitted a formal list of policy option packages, which are also referred to as POPs, and legislative concepts to the governor's office, or LCs. This generally includes additional resources for OACO in the form of staffing, resources, and monies. One of those items for the legislative concepts that we're moving forward on is that OACO internal staff have been working to standardize Oregon Advocacy Commission statutes to increase consistency in law that governs all 4 commissions that we support. We are planning to conduct multiple feedback sessions for commissioners. Those are generally going to be 1 to 2 hours each week. And that would be drop-in hours. Generally, it is going to be during the lunch hour as well as 5 to 6 during those days to allow all commissioners to attend if they choose to. And the goal is to also gain commission support in public meeting or a unanimous vote to get buy-in for these legislative concepts so we can formally draft them with the legislative council through the governor's office. We've also created an internal policy pertaining to official duties for commissioners, which details the process for reimbursement and compensation. A copy of the policy has been included in today's meeting materials. I've also included this in the ED report So you should be able to double click and see the actual policy. We will be discussing this in the next commission meeting and asking for a vote. And this is, for the record, OACO, as an agency, we can recommend policy adoption. However, we can't do a top-down approach where we say, like, this is the law of the land. So that is the reason why we're going to need to ask for a vote in the next commission meeting. We've also created an onboarding checklist for new commissioners to ensure that there is an official onboarding process to track information being presented to commissioners and to increase accountability within OACO, providing clear and consistent information. For the record, we do have 5 new commissioners slated to join on May 29th, which is the next round of Senate confirmation for executive appoints. We are planning to meet with them that afternoon and set up an onboarding as well as do additional onboarding via virtual if needed. Also, just wanting to double down on legislative days. It's a great opportunity to partner with sister commissions, with legislators. That is going to be Thursday, May 30th. So it is coming up rapidly. It's going to be a great event. There's going to be food. There's going to be students in attendance as well as part of our civic engagement as an agency. So it's a great opportunity to collaborate, cross-pollinate with other, commissions, determine which areas that may be a priority for OCFW as well that you may want to join as part of a subcommittee and elevate each commission's work. There's also going to be some presentations from the Secretary of State's election division. Next up, Oregon, and there's also an agenda that's included in the meeting materials and has been sent out to commissioners on a couple of different occasions as well. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Kyle or myself. Also just wanting to note that we are going to be planning a joint commission meeting, likely in the fall. So at this moment in time, it's likely going to be the end of September or October. So more details are going to be shared in the coming weeks once we actually have some time to breathe and refocus our efforts into this joint commission meeting. Also just mentioning that Andre Beeler has started working with Governor Kotek's office as the new policy advisor on racial equity. He joined the meeting earlier today. Look forward to working with him and having a long-standing impact on the advocacy commissions as well as the RJC. I'm going to skip this next bullet point because we actually did talk about this issue, which is the commission priorities. Also just doubling down, if there are any other priorities that come up, it's always good to think about the 3 governor priority areas to see if there's intersectionality with those areas, as that would be an easy way to elevate those issues directly to the governor. And last but not least, just wanting to highlight some activities of sister commissions over the last 2 months. So commissioners have expressed extensive interest in hearing the governor's priorities for OACs. So we're currently working with Maya as well as Andre to set up a reception meeting for the governor. We're still working on that date, but we do plan on announcing that as soon as we are able to get on her busy schedule. Okapia and Oregon Rises Above Hate held an event at Lansu Chinese Gardens, which took place on May 4th for Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander Heritage Month. And Commissioner Bulling presented the proclamation with Governor Kotek in attendance. So it was a great event and was very informative. So appreciate folks for attending those events with sister commissions. And then last but not least, we do have an event later today, and we did talk about that earlier in this meeting. So I look forward to seeing some of you all at 11 a.m. Any questions, comments, concerns?
Thank you very much, Director Saunders. That was informative. Commissioners, do you have any comments or questions for Director Saunders? All right.
may have seen Saba's hand up, so
I can't see Saba on my side. So Saba, are you there?
was your hand up or?
Nope.
Oh, okay. We were just checking. We thought we might have seen your hand up, so. All right, thank you so much. All right, do we have any folks signed up for public comment today?
No public comment today.
All right, thank you so much. So we're down to the good of the order for the meeting. I did want to share my thanks and appreciation to the commission and staff. This will be my last meeting as the senior co-chair. And I just appreciate all the support and constant follow through that you've all done throughout the course of the year. This has been a little bit of a challenging year. We did go through, a transition with our executive director, and I want to share my appreciation for Director Saunders and coming in and just helping us kind of steady the ship and get back on track. It feels like we're in a much better place right now. And just to hear the reports today, the connection with the governor's office, with Andre being here with us and establishing some priorities, it just feels like we're getting back on track. So I just wanted to share my appreciation for all of that. And I'll open it up to commissioners and anyone, staff as well. Just any announcements or good of the order.
Chair Parent, I just have a question for our director in Saba. I got approached about a few weeks ago, but some women graduating from college inquiring about possible internship with our commission or across OIC, and I didn't know how to respond. So my question is, do we have those opportunities at least to provide information materials to viable candidates so that we can expand our network and platform of visibility?
Absolutely. So I'm going to jump in and say, please connect them with me. More than happy to explore internships. That's something that is in one of our POP requests as well, is to create an actual internship program of paid experiences. Currently, we utilize George Fox interns, and they have their own system of payment. So that is something that we are going to be planning for the next, I would say, couple of months into the next biennium as well. And more than happy to build those partnerships with colleges and universities.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Director. And also, those were inquiries about even volunteering. So that would be in whichever capacity as well. So I'll happy to talk to you offline, Director Saunders. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Commissioner Hansberger. That's great to make those connections. Right, any other comments?
Co-Chair Perrin, I just want to say I appreciate you as well for your service that you provided on OCFW, steering the ship in these hard times as well, and just look forward to continuing to build our partnership and advocate for the needs of women on behalf of the state of Oregon. So I appreciate you and all the work that you're doing behind the scenes.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. All right, so our next meeting is scheduled for July 19th, and that will be senior co-chaired. Mercier leading that meeting, and she's also leading our event here in about 45 minutes, so wish you well on that. And thanks for all your leadership and great work, everyone. It's good to see all of you, and hope you have a great rest of your Friday. Meeting's adjourned. Take care.
Thank you, you too.